True crime cowboy. True crime cowboy.
All right, it's Tuesday evening. It's been raining all day. Yeah, so we're still getting some of the fallout, I guess, from the cyclone bomb or whatever it is that they're calling it over in California. I wasn't planning on doing another video today, but I got thinking about something while I was cooking dinner tonight. And just some thoughts started going through my head, and I'm kind of just outwardly brainstorming just some ideas that I had that I wanted to share and get you guys' input on it, because it's just an idea. I don't have any kind of information regarding this, but I just wanted to share it. And so there's two different things that I want to talk about tonight. All right, so we'll be right back after the word from our sponsors. All right, had you going, didn't I? I ain't got no sponsors. Don't want any. Anyway, the first thing I want to talk about tonight is, now I really haven't been following the Idaho 4 case. I've been following it a little bit, but man, I'm pretty familiar with pretty familiar with the main, I guess you'd say, items. I don't know what you call them, the main points of the case. I did read through the affidavit, which Justice A to Z was kind enough to send me a copy. And I did watch a video a couple nights ago. It was some blonde gal who was a former FBI agent. And she was going over the affidavit, and basically what she was saying was, in her opinion, I'm trying to think how she put it. I think this is how she put it. She goes, I think they have him nailed to the wall. So they have built a very ironclad case. There was a lot of people that were saying, you know, that the police department there was not investigating it, and blah, 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 blah. Well, I think that if nothing else, the affidavit showed that actually they were building a pretty good case against this guy, this Kohberger guy. One of the things that I found interesting was the way that they were able to identify him. And that was from the DNA that they got off of the knife sheath. The one thing that bothers me was, why did he leave the knife? I'm trying to say knife sheath at the same time, and the knife, it's knife sheath. Why did he leave that laying on the bed for them to find? Somebody said that it was because it was I guess it said USMC on it. Anyway, it was a military sheath. And so he was trying to make him think that it was some military person who did the killing. That could be the case. But I don't know, I've been thinking it through, and looking at this guy, looking at his history, looking at the way he was studying criminology. He had already earned his master's degree in criminology. You'd think that he would be smart enough to know, having touched the sheath, that they would be able to get DNA off of it. Of course, maybe he hadn't thought how they were going to match it up, going through his dad's trash back in Pennsylvania. Maybe he hadn't thought that far enough ahead. But still, to leave the sheath on the bed was really, really stupid. I mean, number one, you generally don't carry a sheath around in your hand. Usually, if you're going to carry a knife, now I do collect knives. I have a large assortment of knives. Most of them that I use for camping. Most of them are Mora knives that I use for. Back one of my knives I use for tearing down boxes and stuff like that around here. It's a Mora knife, which I think they're some of the best. I've got some Moras, I've got some Schrades, I've got some other Kershaw, and I like collecting them. But I use a lot of them for different things. Like there's one utility, the Mora knife I use for cutting down boxes, and like I said, each one of them that I have has a sheath. Now, the purpose of the sheath is for you to wear it on your belt. You put the sheet, you put your belt through the loop, and you secure it. And if it's a longer sheath, a lot of times it has like a string or something that you tie around your hip to hold it in place. And of course, copper has to start making noise as soon as I get on here. Don't you? Generally, that's how a knife is carried. It's in its sheath, and then you just take it, you pull it out and you put it back in when you're done with it. You generally don't carry the sheath around in your hand, especially if you're going to commit a murder. The last thing you want is for somebody to see you walking around with a knife in a sheath in your hands. All right, so that doesn't make any sense. Why wasn't it secured to his waist or to his belt? Okay, well, maybe it was. And maybe he did leave it there on purpose to try to throw them off. But then again, it doesn't make sense that he would leave it there for that purpose, to make him think it was a military guy. I mean, there really isn't any military bases around that area. There's one in Spokane, which I guess isn't super far from that area. At least I think there's one in Spokane. I can't remember. There's one up there somewhere. But I think there is one in Spokane. And Spokane's not super far from Pullman, which Pullman is where Washington State University is, as you've learned. It's only about 9 or 10 miles from Moscow. The university is about 10 miles apart. So, I don't know. I have a hard time with that. What I tend to believe, this guy has gone to all this trouble to study criminology, to get his master's degree, working on beyond that. His research that he's done, interviewing people on online forums and such, asking them questions like how do they pick their victim. It's just not normal questions. He studied under another lady, which I can't remember her name, but she worked with this other, I think it was BTM killer or BTK killer or something like that. It escapes me now. But he was a serial killer who Bryan was extremely interested in. So it really makes you wonder if he had some kind of delusions of grandeur and thought, I'm going to go do these killings and become famous. Of course, you get caught. You're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, obviously. But if your mind is deluded enough and you're crazy enough, to go down in history like that, like some of these other serial killers did, to them, someone like him, it may be worth it. And so maybe he left that sheath there knowing that they were going to be able to get DNA off of it, that eventually they were going to find him. And so maybe he actually wanted to get caught in a roundabout way. I mean, I'm sorry, I've got a bunch of gunk in my chest tonight. You look at this guy's eyes, and the guy just looks, I'm sorry, he looks like a psychopath. He's got that blank stare. Just that mean blank stare. You look at his mugshot, you look at other pictures of him, and he just looks emotionless. No compassion. And so my theory is, and this is just my theory, again, I'm just kind of brainstorming out loud. My theory is that maybe he wanted to get caught. He left it there on purpose. Also consider that on his way out of the residence, he ran into another of the roommates who said they just froze when they saw him. That he looked right at them, and they froze, and then stepped back, locked themselves in the bedroom, and he just sauntered on out the door. Now, that's not normal. You've already killed 4 people. Here's somebody who has seen you, can identify you, at least body type, height, said he had bushy eyebrows. Several things that could identify him. But yet, he went right past this other person who saw him point blank and just sauntered on out the door. Didn't try to kill this other person. I mean, he already killed 4 people. He's already going to be spending life in prison. What's one more? You know what I'm saying? That's not normal. Generally, someone who's already going to kill 4 people, they're not going to think anything about killing a 5th and not leaving any witnesses. So what that says to me is he wanted a witness. He wanted somebody to see him. He left the sheath on the bed so that they could identify him. He walked right up to the person almost, looked at them, didn't go after him. It's kind of like, yeah, take a good look, then wandered on out the door. That's not normal. Generally, when you have a killer like this, they're going to take everybody out because they don't want to leave any witnesses. They don't want anybody to be able to go to court and identify him. Now, even though this person did not see his whole face, they would still be able to recognize his eyes and recognize his eyebrows. You're showing a picture from here up like this. So to me, that says he wanted to get caught. He has these delusions of becoming famous for doing this. And this is, I guess, like the culmination of all of his studies. He interviewed serial killers, talked to people who had victimized other people, found out their MOs of how they chose their victims and such. And then I guess he had to experience it firsthand. Now, there are some people, oh, quit your whining. He does not like it when I get on here or get on the phone. He starts whining immediately. He doesn't like to be ignored. Now you distracted me. I can't remember what I was going to say. So be good. I can't remember what I was going to say. But to me, he just comes across as somebody who, oh yeah, he'd studied them. Now he experienced it firsthand. He knows he's going to go down in history as a multi-killer. It's going to be nationwide. All this publicity. And for him, maybe that's worth going to prison. Or, if he gets the death penalty, he still dies a famous person. And this is in his mind. So that's why I think he left the sheath, because like I said, normally you'd be wearing that on your belt. You wouldn't be carrying it around or leaving it anywhere. You'd put the knife back in the sheath. It doesn't make any sense unless you're trying to get caught. And that's my theory on that he was actually trying to get caught. All right, I'll be right back. I need to handle some dog business. Okay. Now, the next thing that I want to talk about tonight, and again, this is just something that's been knocking around in my head, especially what after happened to the Dante De La Torre in December. You have a 16-year-old Kylie Rodney. You have a 16-year-old Trinity Backus, which I couldn't remember her name. Oh, yeah, and as soon as I got done recording, her name popped right into my head, but I couldn't think of it while I was recording. Ugh. And then you have Dante. 3 16-year-olds. All died under mysterious circumstances. Now, I don't know. I tried doing some searching, but if somebody has a link to Trinity's autopsy results, if you can share that, I'd appreciate it. I couldn't find any. And I would think after this much time that the autopsy results would be forthcoming. Also, I wonder how soon we're going to get Dante's results of his autopsy. And like I was saying yesterday, they're saying there's no evidence of foul play, but they don't know cause of death. I'm sorry, but you can't, until you know the cause of death, you can't say that there's no evidence of foul play. This kid went out to dig up a few dirt samples and ended up dead in the woods. No. No evidence of foul play. You know, I don't know if they're saying that for the public's benefit or what. But you got to be kidding me. That may be their preliminary statement and they're actually investigating foul play, but that area over there, who knows? I don't trust anything they do over there, law enforcement-wise. Now, it's interesting that all three of these individuals were found dead. Well, in Kylie's case, she was found in the lake, but it's still, I was going to say, in a wooded area, which technically, more than likely, Kylie died in a wooded area, if that was indeed her in the vehicle. But let's just say for argument's sake that it was her in the vehicle. She was in a wooded area. Car later ended up in the Prosser. Trinity was found in a wooded area. Dante was found in a wooded area. Now, these areas are not super close in proximity, but they're all right along the I-80 corridor. All south of Reno, or west of Reno, or however you want to put it, since they do consider I-80 eastbound and westbound, even though you're actually heading south and north, or northeast and southwest, I guess. Now, my question is there possibly a serial killer involved in these deaths? We don't know for sure who it was with Kylie at Boca the morning after the party. There's some debate on who it might have been. I was told that it for sure was not Jagger, but that was by somebody who was trolling me, so that automatically makes me think the opposite. Also, according to Doug Bishop, Nick identified the picture of Jagger. Now, Nick told Squirrel Girl that he did not, that he didn't know who it was. But Doug Bishop said that yes, he did, that he ID'd a picture of Jagger. Now, the source that came from is questionable, so we'd have to ask Doug about that before we'd actually believe it. But I've been talking to some locals over there, and also Forest Service personnel. And there are some very shady people in that area. Although by now, the homeless crowd has pretty much moved on, headed further south, because they don't want to be camping around Truckee as cold as it gets and all the snow that they get. Would not be feasible. So I don't know that we could say that it was the homeless people who were involved in Dante's demise. But who knows? Some people do like to camp in the winter. But it really makes you wonder, to have 3 16-year-olds die under mysterious circumstances that close together in just a period of 4 months, because Dante was in the first week of December. He left school on December 7th, and then they found him on the 8th. So obviously the incident happened on the 7th, so the first week in December. So we got between the first week of August, in Kylie's case, and then not super long after, Trinity, and then in December, Dante. All 16 years old. All mysterious circumstances. Now, I have been told by people who have lived in the Truckee area for a lot of, many years. They're very, very familiar with all the areas around there, especially the areas around Boca and Prosser and such. I asked them, I said, now look, either one of two things, like in Kylie's case. Either they were covering for somebody with a lot of money and power in the area, or there was some other reason. And to a person, all of them told me the same thing, that the people in Truckee, the moneyed people, and not just the higher-ups, not just the ones with political ties and whatnot, that the people there in Truckee don't want the bad publicity, don't want property values to go down. They want to keep a clean reputation for as tourism, as far as other people moving into the area, or looking at moving into the area and building or buying. And it all boils down to money. It's like I've said before, it's like everything boils down to money. The love of money is the root of all evil. It always boils down to money. And so I asked them, I said, is that enough? Just the fact that they don't want to hurt tourism, don't want to hurt property values, don't want any bad publicity, is that enough for law enforcement to cover up Kylie's death? And to a person, they all said the same thing, absolutely. Even, I'm not gonna say governmental officials, put it that way, or government employees said the exact same thing. Oh yeah. So we think back to that documentary, Everyone Counts. And of course there's a lot of deaths. I've even had people mention stuff in the comments, like they said, this is not on Everyone Counts, that wasn't on the documentary. A couple of deaths that they talked about that were swept under the carpet. And so them sweeping deaths under the carpet, whether they're accidental or not, and a lot of them are not, but they sweep them under the carpet because they don't want to hurt the tourism dollars and don't want to hurt the property values. To them, money is king. And so it didn't necessarily have to be somebody from a prestigious family that they were covering up for. It could be just for that reason, because I've been told that. I've been told that by real estate people. Other people in governmental positions over there have all told me the same thing. Now, that wouldn't fly here. But this is a different area. This is small town America where I live. I don't know that even if something happened in Boise anymore, because it's grown so much and there's been so much, I want to say, infiltration by out-of-state people moving in. A lot of them probably the bulk of them from California. It's changed quite a bit. But I would still hope that if something happened to a young person over there, that they would investigate it properly. But anymore, I mean, our nation has become so corrupt, our governmental system has become so corrupt. A lot of law enforcement agencies have become corrupt. I was talking with somebody just 3 nights ago about a small town that they lived in where basically the cartels have moved in, and this is in an area, dinky little town out in the middle of nowhere. But see, the cartels like to use those places as hubs. There's another place a person was telling me about in Colorado that's up in the mountains. Little dinky town up there. It's being used as a hub for the cartel. You've got the cartel moving in, taking over much of our nation. And that's not an exaggeration. It's the truth. Money talks. And they have an unlimited supply. Unfortunately, there's too many people that can be bought off. Now, I'm not so sure the cartel was involved with any of the deaths of these 3 16-year-olds over there. I don't know that they're not. At least in Kylie's case. And who knows in Trinity's case. Actually, who knows about any of them? But my thought was, what if there is somebody responsible for all 3 deaths? Now think of this. If there was a serial killer running around killing kids, do you think that law enforcement's going to let that information out of the bag in that area? Not likely. Not likely. Even if it means the safety of the kids. Because money's king. Money means, to them, means more than life. As long as it's not their life. As long as it's not their kids. So that's just something that was bouncing around in my head tonight that I thought I would just share. Like I said, I wasn't planning on making a video tonight, but I just wanted to get that out there and let you chew on that and, you know, just see what everybody thinks. It seems like every time I do a video like this, somebody comes up with more information on that area that I didn't know about before. And by the way, I very much appreciate that. So, you know, if you're from the Truckee area and you've got any input on this that can be helpful to me or all of us, you know, feel free. Also, if you don't feel comfortable making comments, my email's in the description. Just email me. And by the way, anybody who emails me, anybody that I talk to, I do not divulge who I talk to. I keep everything confidential. You can ask my viewers. I don't reveal confidences. You know, I keep it secret. A lot of people get mad. Well, you know, like some guy was saying, well, I tell who I talk to. Yeah, you're talking to law enforcement. That's a little different than confidential informants. I'm sorry, I was a cop for 10 years. I worked with confidential informants, and I never revealed a source. Never. You don't do that. Number one, if you do, you're never going to get anybody to tell you anything after that because you're going to be looked at as a snitch. So, yeah, when it's people confidential, especially if they're putting their lives on the line or their safety on the line, there's no way in hell I'm going to tell anybody who they are. So, if you have information you want to email me with any information that you think might be helpful, I promise you'll stay secret. All right, so that's it for tonight. Just some things. Excuse me. Boy, I just got done eating dinner, so I'm like keep burping up. You know, TMI. So anyway, that's it for this evening. Like I said, be interested in what you guys think. I said, this is just me knocking around ideas in my head. So, alrighty. Well, we shall catch you later. Have a good evening.
True crime cowboy. True crime.